what do you do on a regular basis that helps you stay on time, stay on track, allows you to focus? Because I know there's a few things that you have done throughout your life, maybe not all at the same time, but have really helped you get the things done that you need to get done.
So in terms of things that I do regularly to help me focus, some of them are kind of daily things and some of them are, things I might do in the moment. There are just so many. And I think one of the things that I've had to learn, and most people, I think everybody kind of needs to learn what works for them, but it's far more true for ADHD because the strategies that work for other people tend to be terrible for you. And that's one of the biggest learning steps. Everybody else says do this thing and I do that thing and it doesn't work for me. Why doesn't it work for me? At the same time, I think one of the hardest things for me was learning that things other people did that sounded boring were often good ideas. And that's sometimes hard to accept. And sometimes I have to do something that other people do, but in a more fun way. And I actually coached a friend of mine who I don't think has ADHD, but she's very artistic and has similar needs. And she was having trouble staying organized and didn't have an agenda book or a calendar or anything. And what I suggested was, as an artist, that she buy a really big agenda book and treat it almost like a craft project. So instead of just writing, say in pencil, everything she had to do, to write in color, to get colored Post-it notes and so on. And that's the kind of thing that I think we have to learn to do, find ways of making things fit our brains. And one of those ways is just to make things more fun. So that's one example. I did that. I learned that myself when I was in university. I discovered I really needed to make my agenda book. I was using a paper agenda book back then, and I had to make it fun to use. So yeah, I just kind of let myself go wild and just kind of draw in it however and get obsessive about it. And so I made a point of making sure that there was nothing that I had to do that wasn't there, even if I shouldn't forget. Even if it was, a class I had every single week, I'd still have it in there. I mean, university in a lot of ways was where I learned a lot of the things that worked best for me. And I haven't always done all of these regularly, but the more of them I do, the better. So one of the things was just getting lots of exercise, waking up and immediately doing 5 minutes of exercise. Not very much. For me, it was I would get up, I'd do things like push-ups, sit-ups, squats, that kind of thing. Just enough to spend 5 minutes kind of getting blood pumping, and it would just kind of put me in gear. And back then, I was also biking to school, and I found that biking has been really great for me. It just adds more exercise. For me, just like with a lot of people with ADHD, exercise, we just need so much of it. I read in one place that they estimated a minimum of a full hour every day of cardio, which sounds kind of crazy, like every single day. You can't always do that, but finding little ways to get exercise into your life can be really beneficial. So I would wake up. The first thing I would do, I would get out of bed and I would immediately start exercising. And that worked really well because it trained my body to think, oh, I'm waking up and, I need to be fully alert. So there was no kind of like, oh, I'm going to sleep in. And people with ADHD tend to be night owls. Every night I made a policy of, I'd set a bedtime that worked for me. And I would be super religious about it, and it was really helpful. So it's really hard to do that because we tend, again, to want to stay up all night. So it's really beneficial to find a ritual that helps you. So in the morning, I would actually meditate, just really briefly, like 2 minutes, but just something to center myself a little bit. Throughout the day, whenever possible, I'd find other activities to do. So at one point, I was doing computer consulting. And because I was working from home, I had the freedom to, let's say, do 45 minutes of work and then get up and do sit-ups for a bit or do something that would get the blood pumping, and that was really effective. Similarly, going to bed at night, I found that there were certain things that were really, really helpful. So I tried for a while exercising before I went to bed, and I found that really ineffective. I even talked to my doctor at the time, and we hadn't talked about ADHD being a thing at all. And he said, yeah, you should really watch exercising too much before bed because it can, kind of get you too excited to go to sleep. So I stopped that. What I found instead was a combination of doing really light exercise. It was almost like I discovered yoga by accident, because I found by doing really slow movements and with deep breathing, it worked really well. And then later on, I started doing yoga, and I'm like, oh, this is like a far more evolved version of what I had found worked really well for me. So something like yoga with movements, just to get the muscles warm but not excite them too much, followed by stretching, I found really effective. And then following all of that with a couple of minutes of meditation, and I found that super effective. So that's one example. Another thing I'll mention is just, things like lists and Post-its and anything that can help draw you back into the thing that you're trying to focus on. So what I'll do is I'll say, if I want to remind myself that tomorrow I got to do this thing and I should make that my priority, I'll often put it on a Post-it. I use lots of Post-its. Maybe I'll put that on my laptop, and that way when I open up my laptop in the morning, it's the first thing I'll see. So that's an example. Making really small lists, actually. So big lists are also really important for keeping track of the things you need to do, and it's good to maintain like a list of all the things you need to do. I've often used project management software for that, but you also need to have small lists to help you stay focused. So often what I'll do is I'll take a little index card, and I'll write maybe no more than 5 things. 3 is often even better than 5, that are my priorities for the day that I really want to get done. And that can be a really good way to control that sort of easy distractiveness. You find ways of writing things down in onto small lists, and that can help a lot.
Those are some good points. And funny enough, I even use some of those things, like making a point of finding 3 things that I will do in the day. There might be the list of 5, but I always get the 3 things done. I often find that I need to exercise during the day so that I sleep well at night. I often take 5-6 minutes between clients just to meditate and resettle and regroup before the next client. So I think you made some really helpful tips.